Hello my TCG exclusives, I'm Vampire Ian and welcome to Batty Decks, the series where I give you a profile on a deck that I've brewed up on a whim for your entertainment. With the release of Legacy of Destruction, we have finally gotten the second wave of support that follows up on the promise of a TCG exclusive archetype. The new Ashen cards take the deck from an unplayable pile to a potential rogue strategy in the upcoming format. So let's take a look. So here's the deck. For those who don't know, Ashen is a TCG exclusive, or as Konami calls them, world premieres. That means we don't get to see how well it performs the OCG before it's playable in our format. This usually doesn't matter though, because most recent examples have been lackluster at best. Ashen was previously looking to end up in a similar position. These dark attribute pyro monsters attempt to expand the pyro pool outside of the fire attribute, and not much else. The main thought most duelists walked away with was that the hand-trapped dragon Vados might be independently good. That is, until the release of the second wave of support in Legacy of Destruction. While this new support isn't amazing, it's enough to make the deck playable, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Now let's get into the card by card. The first thing you're going to notice here is the deck is technically two separate archetypes. The Vados cards could easily be played on their own, but the Ashen cards literally don't do anything without Vados, making them kind of one archetype. But the separation matters for what cards are able to search, so I'm making the distinction clear by separating them like so. Starting with the true Ashen cards, let's look at the only actually good monster, Priestess of the Ashen City. Like every Ashen monster, she can special summon herself from hand once per turn if you control the field spell Obsidian. On summon, she can add any Ashen card except for herself. Here's where Vados and the Vados Searcher not being Ashen comes up. Still a good starter for the deck on normal or extender on special. Next up is King, who in addition to the summon effect can summon an Ashen monster from hand or deck if your opponent controls a monster with 2900 or more attack. Lastly for the Ashen monster, we have Hero, who can quick effect destroy a pyro monster in the main phase. You're supposed to pop Vados with this to clear the board. And yeah, I know that's a terrible effect. We're gonna come back to that, I promise. We're only playing two of each of these guys because they're just awful. We really just need the bodies to grab for the deck and extend. We just need more Ashen names on the field. If I had better monsters, I'd play them. Now let's talk spell traps. Obsidian, the field spell, is essential to the strategy, but ridiculously easy to access. It turns all your opponent's monsters into pyro monsters during your turn only. That's right, this deck is designed to super poly your opponent's entire board, but only during your turn. It recycles another copy of itself to the grave in the end phase to draw a card, which doesn't make much sense until you realize the last effect is a Gear Town style effect. That's right, the most important effect of the field spell is that on destruction it specials an Ashen monster from deck. That's why this thing is good, and that is the only reason why it is good. A little frustrating, isn't it? If you think that's bad though, Extinguishing is even more frustrating. This card sends a Dark Pyro from deck to grave and then lets you add a level 5 or higher Pyro monster from grave to hand. Note that the only Dark Pyros in existence are in this archetype specifically. That's all you can get. You could also banish this from grave to fusion summon a pyro monster using material from hand or field. Yes, it is restricted to pyros, despite the fact that it uses the usual polymerization materials. Rekindling is a little bit better. It's a searchable quick play that negates a monster on field for the turn for the cost of returning an Ashen card from grave or banished to deck. That's any card, by the way, not just monsters. It's not a great card, but it's not a bad one either. I think it's worth having at 3, but you can cut it down if you like. Since it's searchable, you could easily get it, but I think it's worth it just for the recycling and for the negation. For traps, we have Endlessness, which is a very bad super poly. You get to summon with anything on field, but you can only summon pyro monsters, and you have to use Vados as material, and you can only do this during the main phase. This means you basically have two targets, and unless you wait until your own turn, you're going to have to use your own monsters exclusively. But if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to make your opponent's monsters pyros. Just have to find a way to get it there and have a copy on the field as well. I've seen Foolish Burial Goods suggested for this, but it just seems really bad. Does not seem good at all. The real reason we're playing two of this is because it's really important for the deck and we want recursion that doesn't involve using the negate. It's not great, but you kinda gotta do it. Lastly, we have Eternity, which on activation adds Vados or an Ashen from grave to hand. Then its main effect allows you to take control of an opponent's monster that you own, in other words Vados and Vados alone, and then lowers the attack of the opponent's monsters by the original attack of the monster, so 2800. Again, this entire deck is built around Vados, which is not even technically in the archetype. Theoretically, you could play Kaijus here, it would prac for Kaijus. I just don't think it's worth doing that because you don't want to play second. We'll get into that. Now let's finally talk Vados. So Vados is a hand trap that can quick effect destroy a field spell on either field to summon itself to the opponent's field. Then it searches or sets one of our Ashen continuous traps from deck. When it's set from field to grave, you can wipe the field, one of the main selling points of the deck. Its spell, Awakening of Vados, plays the field spell from deck on either field, and then if the opponent controls a field spell, which you just gave them, you can search a level 5 or higher Dark Pyro like Vados. Then it locks you into Pyros. This is why our extra deck isn't very robust. It's the best starter in the entire deck, but it does lock you out of most extra deck strategies. We have one generic card to support us, the controversial Bonfire. Our only search target for this is Priestess, and she's all that we need. She's just that important. Then we have our non-engine. First up we have Nibiru. Did you know that Ashen for Eternity can take the Nibiru token? Apparently, if you spawn a token on the opponent's field, it's considered in your ownership. You learn something new every day. Next we have Droll and Lockbird, which this deck has a decent time playing under. As long as you don't need to use Bonfire to access combo, you usually only absolutely need one search. You'd rather have two, but still. This means that in addition to stopping other decks, you can also use it to stop the upcoming Molchummy effect. Keep an eye on that. Next we have Dimension Shifter, which this deck plays pretty well under. There are a couple of minor conflicts, but most of them are on the bad cards that we actually don't care about all that much. Mostly your cards just don't care where they end up as long as they leave the field. Thus, we can leave this lingering banish on the field to make our opponents sad. And lastly, we have real Super Poly, because I am not satisfied with the level of Super Poly in this deck. We have a lot of empty extra deck space because our best card locks us for some reason, so why not play Super Poly? Speaking of, let's look at the extra deck. First up, we have two of each in-archetype guys, starting with Embers. This guy is absolutely fucking dog shit. One of the worst cards ever printed. It's not even worth reading. However, his materials are 2 Pyros. That's incredible, so we gotta play him. He's not even a very good Super Poly target against Snake Eyes because you could just play Garura, but it is important just specifically for our deck because of the way our stuff works. It's a Pyro. We need it to be a Pyro. This deck sucks so bad, dog. Then we have the Fusion Vados. Don't get confused on the names here. This guy needs to use Vados as material and then 2+ level 9 or lower Pyro monsters. This means that even if you get to use the Super Poly effect of your continuous traps on your turn when the opponent's monsters are Pyro, you still can't use the Link or Ixies monsters for the actual good fusion. You gotta make Embers instead. And you still have to use Vados because of the traps restriction. Why is the deck built this way? Why have you decided to make me suffer for trying to play your TCG exclusive archetypes? Why? Why? Fusion Vados does have some powerful effects though. It's immune to destruction and targeting, making it immune to Vados' effect in grave after the summon. Then, Fusion Vados has its own board wipe where it destroys all the opponent's spell traps. The combo of the two for the summon is a full board wipe for the opponent, which is your main form of interruption. It can also do a Ghost Ogre style effect and pop a card that activates an effect by sending an Ashen card from field to grave. Now you have to have one there. Good luck with that. You just wiped your entire board, so now you have to have the field spell, but you want to have the field spell on field, maybe you send Ashen to Endlessness, but you gotta have the Super Poly too. I don't know. It's a bad archetype. What do you want from me? Then we have the rest of our targets for the real Super Poly. Garura can clear 2 monsters with the same type and attribute, and luckily our field spell can help with that. Muddragon uses same attribute, different type, which is more common. Starving Venom uses 2 darks and is quite strong in its own right. I've talked about this before. Dragostapella uses a fusion and a dark monster for a negate. That's pretty neat. Blaze Phoenix is a funny one for this deck specifically, using a Pyro and a Machine as material. This will help you against Snake Eyes even more by clearing Amblo Whale or Rescue Ace with all their machine stuff. I guess it also helps you bully the Cyber Dragon player at your locals too, if that's what you need. Earth Golem Addictor helps clear any field with a Cyberse like Masquerena and any Link monster, so not a bad pick currently. World Chalice Guard Dragon is in a similar position as a Super Poly target in a heavy Link format. With all the fusions done, let's take a look at our Svelte Link package. Dark is here to steal a Masquerena from our opponent's grave to make access code. Masquerena is here to make Little Knight. That's all she's here for. Little Knight is one of the best extra deck monsters ever printed, and so is Access Code Talker. I want to play these guys. They're really good, and sometimes you just have a lot of material on field to make these. So, might as well play them. Now for the side deck. First up is Ash Blossom. You didn't think we'd forget her, did you? She's not at her best this format, and we have way more powerful cards we want to play first, but we definitely do need her here. Next up is Triple Tactics Thrust, who can search every other card in the side deck here. We can get Feather Duster to clear back row. We have Triple Tactics Talent because we need every advantage in trying to break a board. We've got Herald of the Abyss to clear towers, or really anything that's just immune to destruction. We have trouble with anything that's immune to destruction in a deck in 2024. Isn't that neat? We have Imperm, one of the best hand traps in the game, and searchable off of Triple Tactics. Just a nice card. Gotta have it. Really, the only reason this isn't in the main is that we have too many good Floodgate hand traps to play. Then we have Evenly Matched for matchups where we just cannot destroy our way to a win. This card will do the job for you. Now, as usual, it's time to talk about what we aren't playing. We aren't playing the other 2 Ashen monsters because they are terrible. They're awful. Shaman recycles cards that we need to use for our negate to add the most addable card in the history of the entire game. Spear Dude is a removal that isn't destruction, which is nice, but the dude has to tribute himself to do so. Terrible card, dog shit! Because we aren't playing any other level 4s, we don't play the Flame Banshee, which I don't think the deck really needs anyway. If you're ever in the position to make Flame Banshee, you already have combo. There's no reason to go any further. And lastly, there's no Prospies in here because I just never feel like I can't access combo here, really. with some minor exceptions.
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
If I was going to put them in, I'd probably cut King and Hero, and maybe the second Endlessness as well. That would get your 3 Prospies.
Sometimes foreshadowing is relatively obvious.
With all that out of the way, let's burn through some games. Alright, here we are with the first game. Our opponent's on Gimmick Puppet, and they're trying to burn us to hell. We are looking not great here. None of this actually does it for us. Like I said with the Prospie segment, you usually get what you want, but not quite always. There's a lot of cards that just don't do anything in this deck, and I'm looking at one right now. If I play 2 of these because I want to make sure I don't run out of them, because it's very easy to run out of good monsters in this deck. But man, I kind of just want to cut back on them entirely, and just have 1 of each, and then the 3 Prospies, like I was just saying. Maybe that's what I would do in the future. But we do have Droll and Lockbird, so that's pretty nice. Let's see what our opponent can do under Droll. They're going to start with Left Arm Offering. Yes, the field spell is just that good. We're playing Left Arm Offering to make sure we get there. We're going to Droll. And we're going to Vados the field spell. Because that's what Vados is good for. We're also going to get Endlessness. And then our opponent is going to concede. They just can't do anything. They used up their entire hand to get the field spell, and then we popped it. So that is one strength of this deck, is that it fucks over all the decks that are coming out that are really reliant on their field spell. This stops Kashtira from getting their searches. This stops Snake Eyes from getting a card in the back row off of Temple. This stops Tenpai from being unaffected. And it stops Gimmick Puppets from doing their FTK. Although maybe if they had 4 more cards in hand, they would have been fine. Alright, game 2 here against Hero, and we still didn't draw a combo. Maybe we do gotta play Prospie. But we've got 2 Floodgate hand traps, so I guess the Bureau's not technically a Floodgate. Depends on your definition. It's like that meme there. But, you know, we got Vados, we got Droll, we got Nibiru. I guess Hero? Surely we can win with that. We did go first though, so we just had to like pass back to the opponent and hope that they forgot that they're going second. So they're gonna go Stratos, they're gonna add. And we're going to obviously Droll that. See ya. They're gonna Fusion Destiny though, because they already had it in hand, and then DPE comes to field. Ugh. They're gonna let Mally for Mally. Mally's at 3 now. Cross Crusader for Mally. They're going to DPE here. The reason for this is they saw the Nibiru. The automatic simulator, it passed back to me. They read the Nibiru activation window, and so they're activating Phoenix Enforcer here so that they can play around Nibiru. They can have the Phoenix Enforcer. I decide not to Nibiru a board of just Malicious. I don't know why I didn't activate it in response to the DPE. I just didn't feel like it was the time. I was worried about them having some sort of extension, but apparently they just didn't. They just didn't have anything, and I should have done it. But that's okay. We could just save it for later. DPE comes back. We're going to go Extinguishing the Ashen and get the King to hand, and then we could use the Fusion Effect Engrave to make the Vados guy. But because we didn't make it with the Continuous Trap that gives it all the extra attack, it's just a little weenie. It's supposed to have 3,000 attack, which would get over Phoenix Enforcer, but Phoenix Enforcer's effect is decreasing its attack significantly. We're going to activate the effect here. They're going to pop Vados, or attempt to pop Vados, but obviously Vados cannot be popped. They do pop their Malicious though, which makes our attack go down even further. And we do pop their Mass Change too. They're just going to go battle and get over it, which, the fact that you can just get over this in battle is so fucking annoying. And they're going to normal summon Vision Hero Vion. They're going to get the Shadow Mist effect. And they're going to DPE here, so to make sure that DPE is safe from the Nibiru that they know that we have. They're going to grab Dark Angel. For those who don't know, Dark Angel is a floodgate that you summon to your opponent's field to floodgate them. So they're going to try and do that to us. They're going to Hero Lives for Liquid Soldier, and then go Poly for Sunrise. They're going to grab Miracle Fusion. And then they're going to draw 2 and discard 1. get Ferris out of hand. Then they're going to activate the effect of the Dark Angel, putting it to our side of the field. I don't know why they do this when they know that we have Nibiru. They're going to Miracle Fusion for the Flame Wingman Infernal Rage. They're going to grab Favorite Contact. This is the 5th summon, by the way. They're going to go into Infernal Devicer. They're going to grab the 2 guys, the Air Neos and the Elemental Hero Neos. They go to battle, I believe. I believe it was good they went to battle. It doesn't tell me here, but so we have to go Nibiru token here. And they're going to pass on that. Unfortunately, they are going to get the DPE here. We drew Hero. We drew Hero. Just like an unbelievable amount of dead draws. This is the game that really made me think. I had to redo these replays. I had a whole set of replays with the pre-release versions of the cards, but then they got updated to the post-release version of the cards because they're now actually all available now. Because I got these replays ready. I was going to have this video out the week of, right? And then Dueling Nexus just... there was complications. I just couldn't get it out. I just didn't have time. So I'm getting it out now. But by now, Dueling Nexus had switched over to the new versions of the cards and completely deleted the old versions of the cards from their database, despite the fact that the new versions don't have the art yet. It's weird. But because of that, those old replays are completely bugged. They don't work at all. So I had to get completely new replays, and this replay here is the one that made me think, maybe I should get rid of the 2nd hero and the 2nd king and just run 3 Prosby. Imagine if this had been a Prosby. Imagine if this had been Prosperity. They're going to DPE here because we go battle to get over the token just to get off the field. I don't even bother attacking the Phoenix Enforcer because we don't have enough attack to, but also it's not going to do anything. They're going to go ahead and pop it. And then they grab the Wingman. They activate the Favorite Contact to get the Shining Neos Wingman, which has crazy attack, and that's basically over for us. They're going to DPE. They're going to use the effect of Dark Angel, a little bit of BMing. They do reveal, so the Dark Angel effect here, what it does is it lets each player choose a normal spell from their deck and place it on top of their deck. So we placed Bonfire, but we don't really have another turn here. They normal summon Air Hummingbird for no reason, just a little bit of BMing. And then they go battle here and take us out. So we did lose the hero. I could have played a little better by using the Nibiru more proactively against the DPE. I just didn't think about it until literally after the effect finished activating and my response window was over. I was like, wait, no. But I don't know what we were doing after that either because all of our draws were completely dead. So that's the thing about this deck is that it's so many of the cards in this deck just don't do anything. Vados doesn't do anything if our opponent doesn't play a field spell or we don't play a field spell. Hero doesn't do anything if we don't have the field spell on field. I don't know if you can play less of these. You definitely can't play less of Vados. You need Vados. Frustrating. For those of you wondering why I mentioned Kashtira earlier, here's why. Game 3, we are up against Kashtira. Looks like very interesting build. We got Lightning Storm and Forbidden Droplet. Once again, we've kind of just got nothing in hand. We do have the field spell at least. And we have Nibiru. Our opponent's going first here. They're going to start with Kashtira Unicorn. Why not? Getting Birth. They already have the Theosis in hand. They're going to Theosis. They grab Fenrir. Fenrir effect. Grabbing Rise Heart. They go into Shangri-Ira. Rise Heart effect. They banish. They banish off the top of our deck. They Ira here. And then they play Birth and then pass. That was 4 summons. They just hard read the Nibiru. I don't know how. They just they had a sense. They had a sense of their mind that Nibiru was in hand, and they played around it. They just did not extend any further, despite the fact that they clearly were able to. But it's now our turn. We draw the perfect starter, the starter of the deck, Awakening of Vados. We're going to activate it in response, just because we can activate it in the standby phase. We're going to give them Obsidian. That's the way you do it, because you want to make sure that they have something on field so you can search Vados. They're going to get Fenrir. We're going to droll them, or they're going to droll us rather. Sorry, they're going to droll us, but we can play under droll pretty well. We're going to Vados, give them Vados, pop the Obsidian. We're going to set Endlessness, and then we're going to activate the Obsidian effect to summon out the king. We would have gotten Priestess, but again, we cannot add a card because they drolled us. So we're just going to go king. We already have a king in hand, but you know, whatever. We're going to go Obsidian here. And now we can summon out the hero and pop their Fenrir before he gets the chance to activate its effect. We could have popped Vados to wipe their board. I just didn't want to do that. I want to use the Endlessness effect and pop their board on their turn. I just go ahead and summon out these guys. I shouldn't have. I mainly just forgot exactly what how the interaction between the Vados and the Vados fusion works. I just didn't think about the fact that these guys would get popped by Vados. So yeah, they're you know, getting a pretty big board here. So we're gonna stop them here because they've gotten basically, I think they've gotten everything that they can get at this point. And we're like the longer it goes on, the more we risk our stuff being, you know, gotten rid of. So we're gonna go ahead and Vados here, or you know, Endlessness here, using the Vados and the Vados. Cool. And then they're going to chain Forbidden Droplet. I did not expect that. They go for 2. I don't know why. Hero can only pop Pyros. He can only pop Pyros. I don't know why they decided to go 2. I forget. Whatever. I don't care. It's good for me. Again, I also don't know why they even bothered to negate Vados because they have the birth already. But did I realize? Oh, if the Vados is negated, it gets popped by Vados. So bye-bye. And then the Shangri-Ira gets to stay. Sucks. But they're going to pass it back to us. And then we draw a Dimension Shifter. Ugh. Can't even use it at this point. We have too many cards in the grave. We do get to activate the Obsidian to put back a card and grab a draw. We get to put back the other Obsidian. They're going to banish 3 off the top because we activated a spell card, which is not great for us. And they're going to lock a zone. They're going to Shangri-Ira to get out Rise Heart. They're going to Terraforming. Hello? You're going to... Is that a field spell? Activating a field spell? Not under my watch. Here, have a Vados. No search for you. And then we get to set Eternity, but then they get to activate Unicorn to banish, and they get to lock our last spell trap zone. They're going to grab Theosis. They're going to use Rise Heart to banish some more, lock a monster zone. They're going to go for Flare Metal Dragon. They're going to summon Fenrir, summon Kashtira, Scareclaw Kashtira. They're going to add Fenrir back to hand, and then summon the Fenrir. And maybe we saved this Nibiru this entire game. Let's fucking go. Everything goes away. There, you can have a token. And then Vados pops everything. I probably shouldn't have gone for that because if they had a Kashtira monster in hand, we were cooked if I did that. But they didn't, so it all works out. Fucking rewarded. We get Vados for turn. Luckily, we already have Obsidian on field. So we're going to go Vados, give them Vados, and then grab off of Obsidian, or grab off of the Vados effect. We're going to grab the second Endlessness just because we can. And then we're going to get the Priestess off of the Obsidian. Priestess effect to grab the Negation spell, just to give us some recycling. And then we could use Ashen for Eternity to grab another Vados, and also to give Vados back on our side of the field. Then we can attack them for some damage. Unfortunately, the thing is, these cards are laid out, so you have to have all 4 of the monsters that I'm playing to get exact lethal. So we're only going to do half lethal here. They draw Ash for turn, but they do have Birth. Birth will get them Fenrir. For some reason, they go to battle phase instead of just going straight to end phase. We draw a Super Poly, which is really cool. We're going to go ahead and reactivate the Rekindling of the Ashen. I kind of forget that Fenrir has to attack to activate its effect instead of being attacked. I always forget that for some reason. I always think that it can also activate off of being attacked instead of declaring an attack. But this also lets us recycle some of our stuff, specifically Obsidian, which is good. They're going to activate here to banish a couple of cards off the graveyard, and then we're going to go battle. We're going to get over the Fenrir with Vados. We're going to attack in with Priestess, and then we're going to Super Poly, pitching that Dimension Shifter to go into Embers for lethal. She actually did something. Oh my god! So where does this leave us? Well, the deck can definitely beat meta. This deck has a lot going for it, like the in-archetype hand trap for crushing field spells, the ability to play and play under all the most oppressive hand traps in the format, and the super poly access. The deck almost seems targeted to beat the two current meta threats of Snake Eyes and Tenpai because of the Pyro super poly and the field spell hate respectively. All of these together make for a very powerful strategy that can hold its own against many decks. On the other hand, beating meta doesn't mean the deck is meta. The biggest weakness of this deck is all of the restrictions. Oh, Obsidy makes the opponent's monsters Pyro. That's great for Super Poly. Oh wait, that only works on our turn. The Super Poly effect on the trap is still pretty good. Oh wait, the opponent removed the Vados from the field. Well, if the stars align and you use the trap effect on your turn to Super Poly your opponent's field for the Vados fusion because they didn't remove the Vados from the field. Wait, they use a Link monster and an Ixies monster. They don't have levels. You can't use those. Well, at least you have the other fusion card to make some interesting monsters. Oh wait, that one also can only make Pyros for some reason, even though it can only use materials in hand and on field. It's just worse polymerization! It's very clear that the devs are afraid of a TCG exclusive archetype being as good as Burning Abyss ever again. The deck just isn't as good as it could be because there's so many restrictions placed on every single card. Restrictions are a necessary part of a TCG, but when you go overboard, you just end up creating a pile that just doesn't do anything. The deck also struggles to go second, since Vados on its own isn't a starter. A full board of interruption is too much for this deck to handle. In some hands, even one Ash Blossom is too much for this deck to handle. Ash Blossom! Regardless, I feel like this deck might still have a place in this metagame, especially as the format begins to centralize around powerful field spells that Vados can destroy. Maybe consider this as a wildcard rogue pick that's pretty affordable minus the bonfires. Granted, if you want an affordable meta deck minus the one expensive card, you should probably be playing Tenpai instead, because that one's actually meta instead of just a bad rogue pick. Still, the deck is fun when it's working on all cylinders, so I still suggest giving it a shot. Hopefully this deck serves you well, or gives you ideas for your own build or what not to do when building an archetype. If it does, feel free to let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Hey there! Thanks for watching this deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you have any other thoughts on the build or if you played this deck and how it did. Also make sure to follow me on Twitch and Twitter for more, and maybe throw a couple bucks my way on Patreon if you like. I hope to see you again, so be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and have a wonderful rest of whatever time it is for you. Bye!